How you doing tonight, Sean?
Doing fantastic, man. And I want to take this very, very early opportunity to wish you, my esteemed colleague, a belated happy birthday. Yesterday, Alan turned 21.
Yes, I did. I turned 21 for the 31st time, I think. Yep, sure did. Turned 21. Uh, it was a fun night. That was my wife's kind of game where the Saints were in control from the outset. Never once let up the gas, and never once did the Colts even threaten to do anything. That last touchdown, I mean, I was looking at who the hell some of these players were, like 32. I didn't know who that was. They had so many reserves in there. It doesn't matter. I mean, the game was over. So it was a good win. Um, Drew Brees got the record, and as has been the theme since the no call from last year, the officials had to step in and throw a flag on the play that Drew Brees actually broke the record. So I jokingly said, I think they threw that flag because somebody buzzed him down there and said, you know what, if he breaks the record before halftime, nobody's going to watch the end of this game. Um, we got to keep him at least through the third quarter. We got advertisers that paid a lot of money to hawk their products. We better at least hold it until the third quarter. Then they can turn it off after that. So
Yeah.
it was just an.
I sit there after the fact and tried to remember. We've seen a lot of really good Drew Brees games. I don't recall a game that he was that focused and that on point. I don't, right off the top of my head, I don't remember seeing anything like what we saw last night.
The only games I can really think of that were even close to that kind of performance. Um, you got that a couple times last year. And 2 years ago, say against the Washington Redskins at final drive, but not for a whole game like that. I'd say that was reminiscent of the New England Patriots beatdown from 2009, um, maybe the 2006 game against the Cowboys. But yeah, Breeze was dialed in. He was ready. They saw a lot of stuff they wanted to take advantage of, and they did it. And make no mistake, that they were going for the record. They were definitely going to go for the record, get it out the way early, and just put this team away. And that's exactly what they did. You know, um, One of the things I said in the teaser for the show tonight was you realize now that Drew has thrown 9 touchdown passes over the past 2 weeks. He scored 10 because he did a quarterback sneak for one of the scores against the 49ers. Do you think we are seeing peak Drew, the type of Drew Brees we normally see in October? You think about the Rams game last year, the Cincinnati Bengals game last year. This is what we usually see out of Drew Brees about mid-season. But because of the thumb injury, he got pushed back at least 5 weeks. Do you think we're seeing now peak Drew Brees just as he's getting into the playoffs?
Well, it's hard to say. He, they all. Well, I mean, you make the point on here all the time about one of the most important factors in making a playoff run. The teams that are the most successful are the ones that are hitting on all cylinders
Mm-hmm.
at just the right time. And that's exactly what we're seeing out of the Saints right now. And last night wasn't just Drew. I mean, Michael Thomas, uh, Taysom Hill, the defense completely showing out.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing a team that has been pretty. pretty beat up in the press, especially after that San Francisco game, and they come back with this kind of response.
Yep. Yep. I mean, granted, the Colts have been inconsistent all year, and they're pretty beat up. T.Y. Hilton obviously was hurt last night. You could see it. I mean, there were a couple passes he didn't even bother extending for that are fully healthy. T.Y. Hilton tries to catch those things. He just kind of put his arm up in a token move and just, unless that ball was coming right between his numbers, he wasn't going to try and go get it. It was just that kind of night for him. And Jacoby Brissett wasn't that sharp. He overthrew some passes. He missed on some wide open targets. But that being said, the Saints defense did do what they were supposed to do. We've seen so many games over the past where you play a bad team and you make that guy look like the second coming of Joe Montana. You allow the plays that you really shouldn't allow from an inferior opponent, and that's who the Colts were last night. They were an inferior opponent. They got eliminated from the playoff race. So it's really between the Titans and the Texans, and the Texans have the advantage of that. The Texans will probably win that division, as inconsistent as they are. So
yeah, you have a couple of teams right as I alluded to last week about the Rams, and I put the Rams into that category as well. You have teams that from one week to the next, you don't know what you're going to get. They're inconsistent in their approach. They're inconsistent in their performance. The Rams, the Cowboys, the Houston Texans as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason that some of these playoff races are so wide open, even at this point in the season.
Yeah, exactly. And it's speaking of the Rams. Here's the Cowboys. They've never beaten a team with a winning record. The Rams were trying to get into the playoff race, put some heat on Minnesota. They needed that win. And what happens? The bad Rams team comes out there after all morning, because I was watching the pregame show. All morning, talking about, oh, yeah, watch out for the Rams. That defense is starting to gel. Todd Gurley's healthy again. They're running the ball. They've discovered their identity. The play action pass will open up passing game. So what happens? They get out there, they look like garbage. And the Cowboys just took them apart. And the Cowboys, as good as they looked last Sunday, I can easily see them losing to the Eagles this weekend. I mean, it's just.
I fully expect the Eagles to be.
Yeah. And the Eagles are hot garbage. I mean, it's just, it's, you're right. There's so many teams that are yo-yos that for the AFC, you can only sit there and say it's the Ravens. You have to count the Patriots, even though they're inconsistent, and the Chiefs. And then that's it. Everybody else is just cannon fodder.
Yeah.
Even Buffalo and the Steelers, because both of them have weaknesses in offense. The Steelers are only going to get in because the Raiders self-destructed. The Broncos are terrible. The Chargers can't beat themselves. And the Jets and the Dolphins and the Bengals and the Jaguars, they're all competing for the top 5 draft picks right now. So in the Browns, just like the Raiders, they self-destruct. You can't trust them at all. And I'm shocked. Odell Beckham wants out. Jarvis Landry wants out. That was a team that was predicted at the beginning of the season to go to the playoffs, turn this thing around, get their first winning season, and look at them. They've self-destructed. So you only have that top tier 3 teams in the AFC. In the NFC, you've got basically 5 teams. You've got the Saints, the 49ers, the Seahawks, I'm going to throw the Packers in there because they do have the number 2 seed, I believe, at this point of the season. And I'm going to throw the Vikings in there. That's really the 5 teams that are probably the best right now. The NFC least, it's whoever survives out of the Eagles and the Cowboys. But
Well, I said it before. That in the NFC East, it's not going to be so much who wins as who just doesn't lose.
right, it's a lot like in 2010 the NFC West, where Seattle went 7-9, but they won their division. And the Saints had to go play an 11-5 team, had to go play a 7-9 team in Seattle, and that, of course, was the infamous Beast Mode game. But that's beside the point. The point is that was a terrible division in 2010, just like the NFC East is right now.
Yeah. Okay, so at this point, I think over the last 3 weeks, there has been a different team launched into that number 1 seed position, only to play their way out of it. Who do you? How do you see these last couple of weeks playing out? Because several of these front runners, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
to that number 1 seed position are going to have to play each other, such
Right.
as Seattle and San Francisco, Green Bay and Minnesota. How do you see all of this shaking out?
Okay. I'm a little concerned that Dalvin Cook is injured for Monday night's game between the Vikings and the Packers because we need, of course, the Vikings to win that game. On paper, the Vikings should beat Green Bay because they're playing in Minnesota. And if the Packers can't run the football, they can't win. It's unbelievable to say that knowing you have Aaron Rodgers on the team. But the Packers right now are a running team that thrives off of Aaron Rodgers being able to throw when the defense has to respect the run. If they can sit there and cover those receivers and don't worry about the running game, they can blitz Rodgers, beat up that weak offensive line, and they can also match up with all their receivers man to man. So I think the Vikings defense is enough of a challenge for the Packers offense. The question is, can the Vikings and specifically Kirk Cousins play to the level that they're capable of playing and exploit that Packers defense? I don't know. I expect the Vikings to win. I'm hoping for the Vikings to win, but I can see Aaron Rodgers do his usual bullshit and throw a couple of Hail Marys and beat the crap out of the Vikings, screwing us all up.
Well, obviously we have to take care of our side of the ledger first and foremost.
Right.
And there are a lot easier teams to have to go to visit at this point in the season and beat than the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
I think that there's one thing that if you're a Titans fan has to be concerning, and that's the fact that Derrick Henry is not healthy.
But Derrick Henry's the guy that makes me nervous, too.
Yeah, because he's dealing with a hamstring.
Right. Because he's a big bull. And, we're pretty good. Well, we're very good going up against smaller running backs that like to do a lot of cutbacks because we don't allow the cutback. I don't know how this defense would do against, a power back who just runs straight at people. I don't know how the secondary and the linebackers. I trust Demario Davis. I mean, clearly, but without Sheldon Rankins in there, I don't know, and without Marcus Davenport, I don't know if they can force a healthy Derrick Henry to run east-west instead of north-south, squaring those shoulders up and just running over people. That's how you beat him. You make him go east-west, and you cut him down. So
Yeah, and like I say, they're going to be a highly motivated because they're still in the thick of it in AFC South.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
going to be highly motivated, and at least on paper, the Saints really aren't playing for much.
Well, they're playing to get that first round bye. That's what they're really playing for. But again,
And if they secure the first or second seed, that first round bye is not going to happen.
well, they can get the second seed if the Packers lose on Monday night and the 49ers win the division. They can get the second seed. Okay. They get the first seed, obviously, at the last week of the season. Seattle beats the 49ers and Seattle wins the division. See, I probably saw this uh, in the text chat I just put down. I was on an airplane flying back from Dallas Sunday, and you know I'm watching the Cowboys game on TV, but I'm also following the 49ers Falcons game on my phone. And I don't have any of the things. I was just using the ESPN app and it was updating, as the drives were going. Well, we land in New Orleans and the guy sitting next to me, he's about a play ahead of ESPN's app. And he says, the Falcons just took the lead. And I went, wait, what? And so, then it flashes on mine. They were reviewing the touchdown, the first pass that was, I think, Austin Hooper dropped. So, everybody on the plane is like, what? What? Falcons are beating the 49ers? So you start seeing somebody grab that phone and look at that phone. And all it takes is one person to say, touchdown, Julio Jones. We're like, yeah! So people on the plane cheering the Falcons. They don't want to leave. We're not getting off the plane. We're all just like looking at our phone. The plane has landed. I think the first row of people are so left, but we're all in the back of the plane, all staring at our phones like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? They're reviewing the touchdown. I said, you son of a bitches, you better give it to them. Because, me and the officials, and sure enough, of course, they get the touchdown. And then at the end of the game, as I start pulling the bags up, one guy's still on his phone because I'm like, okay, they got this game, 8 seconds left. They're not going to score. They're not going to let them run a kickoff back for a touchdown. The Falcons are that stupid. The guy is still on his phone looking at it, and he says, yeah, the 49ers tried to lateral it all over the place like Stanford Cal, and they fumbled the ball. Falcons scooped it up and scored another touchdown, so they won. So yeah, it was a good Sunday night. Good Sunday night. I watched the replays on the Football Night in America, but so that helped us though, and that's the reason why I brought that up. Um, that helped us because now the 49ers have that third loss. They have the same record as us. Yes, they win the tie-breaking advantage, but they can't afford another loss. My fear was they were going to, lose to the Rams, but beat, the. But I didn't want all that pressure on me, that we have to worry about any kind of tiebreakers with them.
Yeah.
But it's still the same thing. We're still the third seed. Um, and we're guaranteed a home playoff game regardless. We would play the sixth seed no matter what if nothing else changes. We all finish 13-13. I mean 13-3. No, we can't. We can't. Never mind. Never mind. Forget that. I was thinking about last week, but no, we don't all end up in a tie. Um, everything matters. The only loss that really matters right now is the Packers have to lose to the Vikings because they play Detroit next week. Forget what I was saying. I was thinking about prior to the Saints losing the 49ers. I was thinking about a three-way tie between the Saints, the 49ers, and the Seahawks. But don't worry about that. We don't want a three-way tie between the Saints, Packers, and Seahawks. Do you know why we don't want that?
I am so confused.
Okay. All right. Here's how it works. Typically, what they do when you have a tie uh, with another opponent for seeding in the playoffs, they have a set of tiebreakers. The first one you go to is head to head. Now, we beat Seattle head to head, and we have lost to the 49ers head to head. Okay. So, in a three-way tie, if the 49ers win the division, we lose because we don't get the number one seed because we lost to them head to head. Okay. That's why you want Seattle to win the division because it's with Seattle, we beat Seattle head to head. So we automatically go up in seeding over Seattle if it's a tie between the two of us. Now, when you throw Green Bay into the mix, because we didn't play Green Bay this year, head to head is crossed out. They go to the next tiebreaker, which is conference record. Okay. Conference record, we lose to Seattle. I'm sorry, to Green Bay because Green Bay lost to an AFC team, and all three of our losses are to NFC teams. So Green Bay has a better conference record. They only have two losses to our three in the NFC. So Green Bay has the better record. But Green Bay loses tiebreakers to Seattle. So Seattle would get the number one seed over us, even though we beat Seattle, because we lose a tiebreaker to Green Bay. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So in that scenario, if all three of us finish at 13-3, then it's Seattle with the first seed, Green Bay with the second seed, and we're the third seed. I think I got that right. No, I'm sorry. No, reverse that. Green Bay with the first seed, Seattle the second seed. Okay, that's how it would work. So the most important thing to happen next weekend is obviously for the Saints to beat the Titans. But secondly, for Monday night, Minnesota has to beat Green Bay because they're not going to lose to Detroit in week 17. They're just not. So Minnesota has to beat Green Bay. If Minnesota does not beat Green Bay, yes, it's mathematically possible for us to get number one seed, but you can pretty much kiss that goodbye. Yeah. Assuming Minnesota now beats Green Bay, okay? Now we're in the driver's seat because Green Bay now has 4 losses, okay? So they can't be in a tie with us. The next thing we have to watch for is obviously we have to beat the Carolina Panthers, whom I think their shit's going to be packed in the locker and ready to go home. You know, if we jump on them early, they quit. I don't care if it's a divisional game or not. They're done. They're ready to go home. They're eliminated from the playoffs. They got nothing to play for. Their coach is gone. You know, all they're looking at is, man, I'm probably not even going to be here next year. So I'm out of here. We're going to be watching, and I think it's Sunday night, Seattle versus San Francisco. That's the game we'll be watching because that will determine whether we're the number one seed or the number two seed.
Yeah, based on what I saw in Dallas on Sunday, I don't think that there's much hope to be held out for that the Rams are going to beat San Francisco.
You don't know. It's a divisional game, and that this might be the week that the Rams show up like a good team again. I don't know. So
I just it's hard for me to put any faith in the yo-yo.
yeah, if
well, let me put that differently. of hating the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to depend
Oh, yeah,
on them to do so.
absolutely. Well, the Rams losing to the Cowboys pretty much killed their playoff hopes. They're mathematically alive, but they're going to need a lot of help, including they're going to need the Packers to beat the Vikings. So they're going to be playing for a lot Sunday because they're going to need the Packers to beat the Vikings for them to have a shot in the playoffs. But that's my only hope that the good Rams team will show up. But if the Rams lose to the 49ers, it's not a death blow to us at all. It really doesn't matter to us because they got their loss last week to the Falcons. This would just be gravy to make sure we don't have to worry about those clowns. And suddenly, week 17 isn't nearly as important as we thought it would be. Because if the Rams beat the 49ers and the Vikings beat the Packers, suddenly the path to the first seed is very, very easily obtainable. We just have to win out. But it's not a death blow to that. And that's what's key. Avery Perkins just joined in. Hey, Avery. He says that's going to be the 325 America's Game of the Week. Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. So it's going to be there'll be a lot of other scoreboard watching. Unfortunately, they're all playing after the Saints have already played. So it's going to be fun.
The noon game.
Yes. Yeah, because Houston beat Tennessee, we were not flexed to a different time slot because Tennessee's playoff hopes are on life support because they're behind Buffalo and the Steelers. They have a shot to overtake the Steelers, but it's a very thin one.
Yeah.
But I think we should win in Tennessee. We
I
should.
think we will. But I also have the instinctual gut feeling that this is going to be one of those sweat it out.
Oh yeah, no doubt because you're not at home. If we were at home, I would have a lot more confidence. Even though we've lost 2 games at home, I would have a lot more confidence. But I think now that Zach Line is back, you notice the running game looked a lot better. Granted, it was against the Colts, but the running game looked a lot better. I talked about this in my Good, Bad, and Ugly. If you watch that Kamara run, they showed a great angle. Having Zach Line go through that hole first and taking out that linebacker makes it so much easier on Kamara because what they've been doing to Kamara is kind of bracketing him in space, to keep him from trying to cut up and make the field, get up the field. And when Zach Line takes out that linebacker, Kamara is just going right off his hip. Wherever Zach Line takes that guy, Kamara's going the opposite way, and he got a big 15-yard run off of that. And you notice Kamara looked a lot better, a lot healthier. He still is not putting his foot in the ground and cutting it up, but he's running a lot stronger and a lot quicker as he's getting healthier. So I feel very good about Murray, Zach Line, power running football, beating up that Tennessee defense.
Yeah. Just beat them into submission.
Yeah. I mean, Drew can, and with, you're seeing more Jared Cook. As long as he doesn't get a concussion, I mean, he's becoming a viable threat in the passing game, just like we thought he would be way back in preseason. You're seeing him making those big catches, and that's opening up things more for Kamara and opening things up, obviously, for Thomas. And it takes the pressure off of Ted Ginn, off of Traquan Smith to try and make a play. And Taysom Hill, of course, is blossoming as a receiver now.
Yeah. I would hate to, as a defensive back, I'd hate to know that I had to cover him after the catch.
I would hate to have to tackle him because that shoulder's coming down and he's running over you.
So let's go back to last night.
Okay.
I think that convocation garners a little more airtime.
Yep.
29 of 30, 307 yards, 4 touchdowns, a 148.9 quarterback rating.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched the post game press conference that Drew did, and the first thing out of his mouth was something about the pass that he missed.
Yeah, I know.
And then, of course, the topping on the cake was, and I'm going to engage my pettiness for a moment. As long as Drew Brees and Tom Brady are both still playing in the NFL, this will be a battle that goes back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
It means the world to me that the first one of the two to pass Peyton was Drew.
Oh, absolutely. Because what did you see this week today? I mean, it started with FS1 on Fox Sports. They poo pooed the record. They're like, oh yeah, Breeze threw 341 touchdown passes, but is that really a big accomplishment now? I mean, because Brady's right behind him, and they can be playing back and forth now with touchdown passes. So, how much is accomplishment is that really? And would you really put Breeze in that top level? If Brady's at the top, would you put Breeze up there above Peyton and Brett Favre? And they were just throwing names out. And then, you know, uh, Phil Simms' kid, Chris Sims, came out with some kind of list of top 10 quarterbacks. He had Breeze at 10, below Staubach and Bradshaw. And you know me, I'm a 70s Steelers fan. I love Terry Bradshaw, but, he's not even in the same class as Drew Brees. And it's just classic. Let's move the goalpost because FS1 actually said, I don't know if you saw this. They actually said, yeah, he did all this stuff, but he hasn't won an MVP trophy, so he can't really be an elite quarterback. You can't sit there and say in his era you were like, oh yeah, he's the best quarterback because he didn't win an MVP trophy. I was like,
dude. And at the end of the day, the one indisputable, unarguable point to all of that is still every significant record that can be attained by a quarterback has Drew Brees' name beside.
Yeah. Yep.
I listened to Colin Cowherd this afternoon, and I couldn't believe that I was hearing what I was hearing. But he made the comment. He said the NBA's logo is Jerry West. He said the NFL's logo should be Drew Brees.
Well, my thing was on FS1, if Tom Brady had broken that record, Pornhub would have been more family oriented compared to what those dudes would have been doing over Tom Brady breaking that Peyton Manning's record, because it would have been the most disgusting. All right, it's a family show. I can't say much more than that. But yeah, my little nieces and nephew watch this sometimes, so I can't really go much more into that. But you get the idea, of the action that would have been going on over. Oh my God, it was Tom Brady. This is why Tom Brady is the greatest ever of all time. This is why he shouldn't be compared to anybody. I mean, and then Drew Brees does it like, yeah, but is it really that important? Is he really that great? And I'm listening to this, and I said this on social media, both on Twitter and on Facebook. I'm like, you're saying, okay, he's not as good as Peyton Manning. You are the same clowns who, when Peyton Manning was playing, you're like, well, yeah, Peyton Manning's got a good regular season record. He does all these great things in regular season, but his postseason, look at that. He's barely above 500 in the postseason. No, no, no. They were ripping Peyton for that. Or John Elway now. I'm hearing all of a sudden all this love for John Elway. Now, Bob, I know Elway's your boy, and I'm not putting Elway down. But let's face it, Elway's reputation was rehabilitated in those two Super Bowl wins. This one's for John. That Super Bowl win over the Packers, and of course, demolition job they did on the Falcons. But prior to that, what was Elway known for? Comebacks. Yeah, comebacks like the drive. Okay, the probably the greatest comeback he's ever had, and getting blown out in the Super Bowl over and over and over again. And each time it was worse. The Giants beat you up pretty good. The following year, you go back, the Redskins dropped 35 points on you in one quarter before Timmy Smith went crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, you're back for a front row seat, Joe Montana kicking your ass all over the field for 55 points, the biggest blowout in Super Bowl history. So you're going to sit there and argue. Drew Brees never got blown out at all at any point in any of the season like that. So you're going to argue with me that Elway is better than Brees. You just can't. You can't make that thing. And Chad's right. Terrell Davis was a difference because prior to that, he had Sammy Winder. He had Humphreys, I think, was another guy, an Alabama running back. He didn't have a running game. And that was the thing they always said. Yeah, Calvin, Elway won nothing without Terrell Davis. And that's exactly right. And it's not a knock. Bob, I love you, man. I love you, boy, Elway. I can't say John Elway without hearing Dick Enberg in the back of my head going, "Oh my Elway!" I can't hear that, but but he's not Brees. He's not in Brees's category. I would put Elway in the second tier. I would put Brees in that top tier. And I put Bradshaw in the third tier because, and I'm gonna rip on my boy. I love me some Terry Bradshaw. I wanted to be Lynn Swann when I was a kid. I got the scars on my knees to prove it because I was going up for the ball like Lynn Swann on pavement. So, but, Terry Bradshaw was benched at the beginning of the 74 season. When they went to Super Bowl IX, he got the starting job after they benched Jefferson Joe Gilliam, Jefferson Street Joe Gilliam. Then Bradshaw was benched again for Terry Hanratty. Then they finally put Bradshaw in at the end of the season. Watch America's Game, the 75 Steelers, because it's a 74-75 season. 75 Steelers, watch that one. Bradshaw was benched again. Then he got hot in the playoffs, won the Super Bowl IX over in Old Tulane Stadium. 76, the Steelers are still a running team. The steel curtain is still the strength of the defense. Lynn Swann was the MVP of that Super Bowl. The 76 Steelers, 77 Steelers don't make the Super Bowl. 78, 79, that's when Bradshaw comes of age. Once again, it's the end of the career, not the beginning, that people are remembering when it comes to Bradshaw. So you just can't put those people in that category. Brees has shown for 20 seasons, especially beginning in 2004, that he has consistently been a great quarterback year after year after year after year. he hasn't hurt his shoulder in San Diego, Phillip Rivers might be the one that gets traded, not Drew Brees. That's how good this man has been for the better part of his 20 seasons. It's just outrageous. It really is. Ridiculous. I'm sorry. That was a rant. I talked way too long. Sean, you take over for a while.
No, I think you're absolutely right. On all counts. But I think that Drew Brees will never, as long as he plays in the same era with Tom Brady, he'll never be considered, except for those of us that have witnessed his work up close
Yep.
and been fans of the team that he played for. He'll never be considered better than Brady, even though we know the truth is complete opposite of that.
Here's the thing when it comes to Drew Brees, and I've said this before too on this show and elsewhere. The fact is, the Saints have a rep. They're a small market team, but so is Green Bay, so is Buffalo, and teams like that. But what's the difference? Green Bay has Lombardi and Bart Starr and all those Hall of Famers. Okay, um, those kind of small market teams, even the Indianapolis Colts, who are considered a small market team, they're still the Colts. They have John Elway, not John Elway, I'm sorry, John Unitas in the background. The greatest game ever played, the 58 championship. All that history behind them. The Saints' history has been one of the losers. Even though 1980 was the Aints year, people just say from 67 to 2006, they were the Aints. Okay? Even in Dome Patrol years. They just kind of sweep that away. They're the Aints. Never won a playoff game until 2000. Never had a winning season until 1987, 21 years. So that's just the mindset of the Saints. That's who they are. So the fact that you've got arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game playing in a small market with a history of being a loser just drives the media crazy. That's why they keep saying stupid shit like Sean Payton's going to the Dallas Cowboys. So why would he want to be in that hellhole? He needs to go to a real NFL team, not the D League team. Not that forgotten team like the Jacksonville kind of team. He's that's a nobody team. We shouldn't even have to listen to those people. That's just a terrible team. It's a fun place to party, good place to host a Super Bowl, joke football team. We need to have Sean Payton in Dallas. And Drew Brees should have gone to Miami because Miami has a tradition of being a winner. Don Shula, Bob Greasy, Dan Marino, perfect season, all that history. That's where if Drew Brees was there, or God forbid in Dallas, we wouldn't even be having this conversation because it would be like that's it. It's you would think the word is Brady Brees. That was a new word because that's how they would compare it and how we can't wait to see the Cowboys against the Patriots in the Super Bowl because Brady versus Brees. That's the spin. That's how they look at it. So and we're stuck with that reputation. I don't know why, but we're stuck with it.
Yeah. And, I can live with it. I think that everybody makes a point to. Okay, let me back up. For most casual fans of the NFL, the defining statistic in the greatness of a quarterback, which I vehemently disagree with, but the defining statistic that people look at to determine a quarterback's greatness is how many rings they have.
Mm-hmm.
Before Drew Brees came along, my all-time favorite quarterback was Dan Marino.
Mm-hmm.
Never got a ring.
Yep.
Never only played in one. But and I kind of laughingly say this every time somebody hits me with that about all of Brady's rings and what have you. And I'm real quick to come back with the statement that for every Lombardi trophy that Tom Brady is a part of, Drew Brees has his own chapter in the record books.
Yeah.
So which is greater? To some, Brady's Super Bowls is going to be greater. To some, Brees' records is going to be greater. I do believe, whether I agree with it or not, I do believe that Drew Brees wins another Super Bowl. That will put him into the elite of elite quarterbacks. Like I say, I don't necessarily buy into that theory because I know, to me, Drew Brees is going to be the greatest that ever played the game. Tom Brady, I take nothing away from him. I don't like him, but I'll give him all the credit and respect in the world for what he's accomplished in his career. But at the same time, I do believe that Drew Brees has accomplished way more with way less. And I think that's worthy of respect.
Yeah. Well, and it's what I said from the outset. It's moving the goalpost constantly. It's okay for this year. It's about yardage. Drew Brees gets the yardage. Oh well, then this year it's about the touchdowns. Um, well, this guy's got more yard. He's got a better record. Oh, okay. Well, Drew Brees has a better record. Well, no, this year it's about the yardage. It does. They constantly move that goalpost, and it's frustrating because it's a rationalization and set up after the fact that whatever Drew does, it's not good enough. And I'm tired of it. I really am. I know that's fuel to drive him, but as a Saints fan, it's frustrating to hear this constantly because Drew is the kind of quarterback I've been waiting my entire Saints fan life to see.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is a man, playing the greatest football I have ever seen. And the fact that he only has one ring, yeah, I get that. Eli Manning has two. Is Eli a better quarterback than Drew? Of course not. You've got a whole slew of quarterbacks, great quarterbacks who never won a championship, and a whole slew of quarterbacks who won championships that weren't nearly as great as the ones who did not. You know, Dan Marino, Dan Fouts, Kenny Anderson, Warren Moon. I could go on. Meanwhile, you've got Trent Dilfer, uh, uh, Johnson, the guy who won the Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Um, Brad Johnson, yes. The Giants quarterback with the cheesy mustache from West Virginia, who yes. I just drew a blank on his name a second ago till you said that. Yeah, Hostetler. You just go down the list of guys who won Super Bowls that were not great players. They just happen to be on a great team um, for at least a year. Okay, and even guys who went to the Super Bowl and lost. Craig Morton, who went to two Super Bowls, and he lost both of them. Shoot, I just drew a blank on his name. I feel terrible. Boomer Esiason, he was a league MVP. uh, you know, um, um, the Dolphins quarterback between Greasy and he's an LSU kid. Between no, not Strock. The other Woodley, David Woodley. That was the quarterback whose name I could picture him. I knew he went to LSU, and I knew Woodstock, and I couldn't think of his name. So, because once again, the greatest game I ever saw, non Saints related, It was the 81 Chargers Dolphins playoff game. I mean,
Absolutely.
I will always say that is the greatest game I've ever seen. But yeah, so you look at guys who got to the championship game, who won championships, that just are not great quarterbacks versus great quarterbacks who have only one ring or no rings. So rings is a stupid way, honestly, to grade someone's greatness.
Well, the simple fact of the matter is that you're a victim of mathematics.
Yeah.
Because there are only 2 out of 32 starting quarterbacks that are going to be playing in the championship game. That means that there are 30 guys at that position that aren't vying for that time. And those two that are in that championship game, they're not going out there and doing it by themselves.
Right. I mean,
So it's really, to me, it's really unfair. Now, make no mistake. Like I said, I give Tom Brady the utmost respect for what he's accomplished in his career, and there will never be another quarterback to equal what Tom Brady has done in that respect. And there will have to be a long time, given the way that the game is played now.
mm-hmm.
It's going to be a long time before you see anyone even approach some of these records that Drew Brees set.
Right. Exactly.
Because the lifespan of an NFL quarterback just isn't 19 years anymore. The
Well,
game is a lot tougher now than it's ever been. You're not going to see people playing for 19 years, much less playing with the same team for 14 years. That's just not normal.
mm-hmm.
Given
Well, given the kind of quarterbacks we're seeing coming out in the NFL today now, that spread offense, running quarterback, unless they become a passer, evolve and stop running, and you're seeing that with Russell Wilson. You probably will see that with um, Jackson over there in Baltimore. When they stop running plays and stop running the way they do it and just get rid of the ball like Brees and Brady do, your body can play this game longer because they protect you so much better. But when you try and act as a running back like a Cam Newton is or has done, your body starts breaking down after so many years of abuse. You only have so many, like every running back has said, you only have so many carries in you, and then your body just takes so long to recover. It breaks down. You just can't take that punishment anymore. You have to become a passer. You cannot maintain that speed and that recovery and all that stuff. So that's the key to becoming a longevity in the NFL. Okay. Um, Donald Woods asked a question. What do we think about Janoris Jenkins? For those of y'all who don't know, Janoris Jenkins got released from the Giants because he called a fan a retard. On a sports talk show because he was arguing with the fan about his quality of play, and he said something to the effect of, "Are you a retard?" Um, so the Giants demanded he apologize for using an offensive word because apparently, and I've just said it twice on the air, but apparently accusing someone of being retarded is a slur today. You know, that's a whole nother subject, but I'm just going to say the term was originated to describe their mental development. It was not fully developed. So, what's the opposite of that? Either use the term underdeveloped or it was the development was retarded. Okay. And then it became a slang term from there, retard, whatever. Okay. That being said, Jenkins was released. The Saints picked him up, put a claim in for him, and got him, which was very nice. I think as an outside corner, he probably is going to have to take Apple's job right now because Apple's got a target on his back and he's getting his butt kicked all over the field because of it. So, according to Pro Football Focus, he was the 20th graded cornerback for whatever that's worth, however they grade people, but he was a higher grade than Apple. He's 31 years old. I don't know how he hold up man-to-man coverage, but I do think that he probably will be an upgrade over Apple right now. Is that how you feel about him, or do you know much about him?
I remember when the Giants signed him in free agency. I would have really, at that point in time, I would have really liked for the Saints to make a run at him, but we didn't. I want to say he played with Arizona, maybe.
Who? Who are you talking about? Oh, not Jenkins didn't play for Arizona. He played with the Giants. You're thinking of Subs. Oh, yeah, I think he did. I think he did play with Arizona a long time ago. I have to go back and look. I just knew he was with the Giants.
Well, I remember that at that point in time, I wish that of course, at that point in time, also, we didn't have a Lattimore. We didn't have any of our starting defensive backs that we have right now. This was at a point in time when we were basically signing DBs off the street.
Yeah.
And I did believe then that Jenkins would have been a really good thing to have. It remains to be seen. I take I'm looking at this kind of with a sense of weirdness. Is that the right? Yeah. At this point in time in the season, it's going to be hard for him to fall in and make a difference. But at the same time, I'm watching Eli Apple get burned like s'mores. We have to do something to shore up that backfield.
Yeah, I agree. I look at it as at least a 3-game rental. You got him for Tennessee if you activate him for that game. Tennessee, Carolina, and at least the first playoff game whenever that happens. Okay, you got him for cheap, $100. Okay, the Giants have to eat his salary. The Saints just pick up the balance of his salary, which I think is like $500,000, whatever. So he's not costing you a lot of money. He could be an upgrade for you on the outside. If not, he can play the slot at least. He strengthens your back end at a time when you need help. So I think it's a win-win. I really do. I was happy to see them get that. I do know they tried to get Suggs. Kansas City got him. It's just that's the way it goes. I'll be surprised actually if Suggs plays for Kansas City because he had said that he either plays for the Ravens or retires. We'll see if he follows through with that threat. The Ravens didn't even make a claim for him. Yeah, Avery pointed out he played for the Rams, not the Cardinals. So yeah. Okay, the Pro Bowl was announced as well. I know it's a popularity contest, and if we're lucky, we don't have to play in that game. But let's see. It was Brees, Michael Thomas, Cam Jordan, Will Lutz, Marshawn Lattimore, Teron Armstead, and Deontay Harris, which is really impressive. Deontay Harris got in there. But that's our 7 Pro Bowlers, which I think ties are on if, God forbid, we don't make it to the Super Bowl and they have replacement players come in, where some of these other players that I see listed here that are considered snubs, such as Ryan Ramczyk, Marcus Williams, Von Bell, Thomas Morstead, and then of course the biggest one, Demario Davis. Yeah, that was where I was going with this. Demario Davis. I thought of the Saints. I don't even know who did, but I can't think of too many linebackers outside of Van Der Esch in Dallas And well, but how well did Kuechly really play this year? I'm just thinking about I'm just thinking of guys that who played extremely well this year. Probably the Vikings linebackers, maybe like Kendricks. Um, might get in over that, but there's not a whole hell of a lot in the NFC that I can think of that played better. Oh, and the 49ers linebackers, yeah, 49ers linebackers. But I thought Demario Davis played well enough to get named at least in there, but that's just one of those things. But yeah, here's the last question for tonight for you, Sean.
Okay.
All right, so the defense is on a patchwork basis right now, especially that defensive line. We lost Sheldon Rankins. We lost Marcus Davenport. Last night we only got one sack, and it really came on a blitz up the gut, and it took a little while for that quarterback to go down. How do you feel about the pass rush going into these final two games in the playoffs?
We're going to have to find a way to put pressure on the passer.
Yeah.
That's the best friend that a questionable playing secondary can have. You're going to have to help out your defensive backs by pressuring the quarterback.
They signed Noah Spence also.
Yeah.
And that was a guy I must have seen about 100 mock drafts that had Noah Spence going to the Saints. And of course, we took Michael Thomas instead. I think that worked out pretty well for us. But what do I know? He's 11 away from breaking Marvin Harrison's record. But Spence was a guy that a lot of people liked as an edge rusher. I don't know. I mean, he played in Tampa. He was hurt a lot. He was hurt a lot in Denver. Denver released him. I don't know if he'll even do anything with the Saints, but someone's going to have to step up, and it can't be Hendrickson on that outside replacing Davenport. I think Hendrickson's a guy who looks good coming off the bench on third down, but he's not a guy you can play 3 downs on that end. He just isn't. He doesn't have enough weight in his butt, and he doesn't have enough moves to play the run and rush the passer. I'm more worried about that than anything else because I think Onyemata can kind of make up for Rankins' absence, along with Mario Edwards and Shy Tuttle. I think we can get something out of that middle, but that edge to get the pressure off of Cam Jordan so you can't double and triple team Cam, someone's got to get some pressure on that end, and I don't know where that's going to come from yet.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that's going to be Hendrickson.
No, he's a guy I like him coming in on third down. I don't like him coming out the whole time, playing all 3 downs. I just don't think he's strong enough. I think if a good offensive tackle gets their hands on him, he's dead. He doesn't have the strength or the moves to break that up. I thought,
and that's what we're going to see in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with the 49ers. You could probably push around the Packers offensive line. You might be able to do that to Seattle, but not the 49ers. The thing I liked about what I saw a lot in Davenport is Davenport had a lot of raw strength that he was throwing people around pretty good. Even if he wasn't making the sack, he was tying up guys to open things up for other players to make the sack because he showed a lot of strength. So that's what I think is going to be missing, and where that comes from, I don't know. Where that pass rush on that end comes from, I'm not sure yet. I hope we can manufacture something with some guys.
I'm just looking to see Taysom Hill line up at defensive.
Well, I tell you what, somebody put this on Twitter. You're a defensive back. Taysom Hill has caught the ball, and the guy who's going to make the tackle misses him. Taysom Hill turns in your direction, is coming right at you. What do?
Negotiate.
Yeah, you just close your eyes and go low, because if he drops that shoulder, you're going on the ground. And when you turn around and look to see who just ran over you, he's there. He is, that shit-eating grin on his face, like, yeah, I trucked you.
Ask Xavier Woods.
That's got to be one of my favorite things he does. He turns and just smiles at you, like, and you think to yourself, that's a quarterback. It's a quarterback. It's a quarterback. It's a quarter. No, it's not. It's like getting hit by a truck. So,
And the Saints last night again blocked the punt.
yep, they did. They did. And that was, that's the thing, again, in the playoffs, that you've got to be able to do. Get a piece, block the punt, get some good return yardage, like Harris did against the 49ers last week. Um, Score like you did against the Seahawks in week 4.
Yeah.
You've got to, or week 3, you've got to be able to get that hidden yardage that doesn't show on the statistics until the end of the game. Um, Give the Saints a short field, or steal possessions that way. That's like turnovers. So, yeah, that's also going to be the key in the playoffs. But we'll talk more about that as it gets closer. Sean,
Yes.
why don't you go ahead and pay the bills real quick, and we'll get out of here.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us on Under the Dome. And program alert. We will not be on next Tuesday night. We are in the process of trying to cement exactly when we're going to be on, but we're in the middle of a playoff run, so we don't want to deprive you of our wisdom.
But it's Christmas Eve. And I know a lot of people get together with their families on Christmas Eve, so it would be hard to do a show. We had the same problem last year because Christmas fell on a Tuesday. So
yeah, we're going to determine that, and we'll post something on the Facebook page, which is an interesting segue. Thank you guys for joining us. You can follow our show on Facebook on the Under the Dome podcast page. You can follow us on Twitter at 79 Saints and at Drew's Dad 3721. You can connect with us. You can talk to us. We love to hear from you guys, and you can subscribe to our show on iTunes and on YouTube. And once again, thank you so much for being a part of what we do.
absolutely, guys. I think we should beat Tennessee pretty handily. I hope it's not a game that we're going to sweat it out, but I think we got this game. That would be a nice early Christmas present. Um, let's just take it one game at a time, and become Vikings fans for a week, and then become Seahawks fans the following week, and that's all we need to do. Thank you guys once again for joining us. We will see you next time on Under the Dome. You guys have a Merry Christmas. We'll watch our Facebook page, watch social media. We'll on Twitter. We'll keep you updated when the next show will be. It'll probably be the day after Christmas, but we want to before we commit to that date, we want to make sure it's clear for both of us. So, in the meantime, go Saints, go Vikings, go Rams. I can't believe I just said that. But I got to. The enemy of my enemy is my friend right now. And we'll see you next time Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.